Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
You want to do the non-publics first?
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
Where's that?
Does a transcription.
Is there a typo on those two? Okay. You're correct. Mine says non-publics 1 and 2.
You kept me up there, that get kicked off.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Public input.
I have a question. So probably a couple of months ago. So you had to go out and I looked into the minutes. And then everybody said that, well, I don't see,
Right.
which made sense. But then fast forward, probably 2 months later, I actually spoke. I wasn't in the minutes or even being here. And then the other questions I asked you about how active we were, and told me that we weren't that active. I'm concerned about the fact that we're doing minutes, if they're not that active, it's what to represent what's taking place here. Why aren't we quiet there?
Well, the high points, I think, get taken.
Actually, I would say that all the communities that I visited through planning boards, zoning boards, boards of selectmen for different projects, that Beverly's minutes are the most detailed of any. And many of them simply say discussion. So I think that's a valid question, but they
Well,
are.
because I've also been here every meeting with the last two. And I've seen other people sitting here that haven't spoke either, that have been in minutes. And I've been here every meeting with the last two. It's dark.
You'll be in the minutes.
Squeaky wheel, Mark.
Want to add to that, Jim?
But the minutes reflect Jim said no.
I would just like, because I have to, sorry. But next time you're in town hall, it's an interesting history, is to go and look at the selectmen's minutes since Beverly's been here, and then look at the selectmen's minutes before it.
I'm not blaming, I'm just.
We're gonna have to get a new vault next to Beverly.
So,
Well, back in the day, the administrator or the secretary, what did we call
Executive secretary.
it? Yeah, selectman secretary or something like that. She would take the minutes and run the meeting. So,
if I may, just, so the law is that the essence of the meeting be recorded. It's not supposed to be a verbatim, like in court. So, and it's usually if the subject matter is, covered, sometimes the smaller issues are not covered, and it's okay according to the law. Okay. But we'll put you in.
and we'll try and get a camera to pan the audience too. All right, if there's nothing else, consideration of old business. Do you want to do water line extension if they're not here? Okay. Wilson Pond concerns, but
So this was just came up in discussion.
Right.
Last week's meeting about the boat launch property. So I did do a little bit of research. The court fishing game has pretty nice portal. It shows all the different accesses of the ponds. They do label swimming as a use of that property. So maybe just some improved signage about if someone camping over there a couple days ago. So they have moved on. I verified that myself. So
Yeah, I would have called you if they hadn't.
I appreciate that. So maybe some additional signage can help a little bit.
And we make the sign saying no dogs.
Well, we'll have to confirm what the rules are and put them on the signs, but
They said no dogs on the side.
okay, that's it.
Just no.
There's a few different ones.
Like the way you're talking about,
The boat launch, Wilson Pond.
people actually camp there instead of tent.
No.
No, camper.
And they park in there, and how long did they stay
They
there?
overnight.
Those can be fun.
What's it?
Those can be.
I was gonna say. So, yeah. Just for what it comes for. And then I did pull up some information because there was discussion about the town properties around the pond. So there is that one. And then at least two other properties or right of ways, and then one that they can I would, mostly Mike, but look a lot at that, we don't really think the town owns a lot of the new tax maps do show this is a town.
I've asked CAI to present any information they have, they found that we did not.
Yeah, I figured from that, so.
Is that the lot at the end of Pasture Road, or is that the number 75?
It's,
Yeah.
right in Indian number, but
That's the access, I think, for a lot of people on the pond.
for some people on the other side, Boyd and others have down there.
But that's also one that has been obstructed, so people can't use, right?
What's that?
No,
It is, well, it is being obstructed, but we can't do anything about it. Because we don't have And so the only thing what we did do is at one point we had police department out there. I had Mr. Dellerbo state for the record that he recognized he did not own it. That time Officer Chamberlain made that part of the record. I made sure that that police report went into each and every affected property file, the maps and some of the history of the whole thing, so that he could never potentially claim some sort of adverse possession or something else. But yes, he continues to make it his own, unless one of the neighbors who actually has claim to use of it says something or does something, there's not a lot we can do about it.
it gets brought up in conversation.
I bet it does.
Then the other piece was about Jake breaks.
Yeah.
So I did put in there a copy of the noise ordinance. From what I heard from other towns, Jake breaks are both hard to police, you have to be there, to hear it, and then if you did try to enforce it. If they potentially caused an accident, they said, well, I'm not using my Jake brakes, it could be a liability issue, so.
Good. All right, Fire Station Advisory Committee Chair, Jay Ward.
There are actually a couple of the members of the committee that are here for that too, so.
All with us. You guys,
State your name for the minutes, please.
They're not here to present.
You're in an official capacity, yeah.
Unofficial capacity. Thank you all three of you for agreeing to come to our first meeting on Monday, 5:30. These folks don't know it yet, but we're gonna go look at the fire stations on Tuesday, the 23rd. We don't find it determined. And we're gonna be off and running. I want to share with you, I just want to be sure that this is something you're comfortable with. I have here, this is an agenda draft, and at the beginning of it is a sort of a mandate, and I just want to make sure that the language is acceptable to you. All three of you, and because I want to make sure that there's one that you want. Make that one.
Jay, in your bullet points of that, is that part of what you're asking us to look at, or you just?
No, I just wanted to mandate, I'm not asking you to tell me how to run the meeting or what we're gonna have on the agenda. I just want the first part where I say the given and then I say the mandate. I want to make sure that wording is acceptable to you because I'm presenting it as though it is. And I want to make sure that everyone in the committee knows that. And I'm expecting you to say something similar when you're there charging the committee with what you expect. And if there's a disconnect, I want to know now rather than later.
we know
Short
how
to
to
the
pull
point.
out of the picture, we eliminate that.
We have to because the time frame is such that by the time we know what's gonna happen with Cutler School, because the school district owns it, and the same with Wilcox, by the time we know that that's in the picture, it's not even something we have to wait in line to see if a charter school wants to buy it. So both those properties are not really on the table. I just want to get that out front, everybody who might want to work on. So, I mean, there are other things that, you know, you'll hear about as we go through that we're gonna look at. We're gonna look at just about everything. We're gonna start from scratch with no preconceived notion, and we're gonna go through things. What about this? What about this? What about that? And as we work, we're gonna eliminate this as never gonna work. We need more information here. We need, that's the plan. We're gonna start with something. I'm gonna show you and ask for your help on some of those issues as well. I'm gonna do some homework for me. Okay? But that's the plan. The plan is to start with everything and whittle it down to something that we can present to you with confidence as, you know, one or two proposals that we need to consider. That's the idea. And that's the plan that I have going into this. And then when I meet with the committee, all 20 of us, we will hash that out, and maybe they'll change my mind about how we're gonna go. But that's where I'm approaching this on the next month.
Are you concerned with the amount of people you have on the committee?
Well, I wasn't first. I had one idea. I thought I'd break this into subcommittees and stuff like that. And then I said, no, I've taught classes this large before. And I know how to manage a room that big. And we're gonna meet and we're gonna have breakout sessions during the meeting. So we're gonna go off, you know, groups gonna go here, groups gonna go there, groups gonna go there. We're gonna then get back together and share what we talked about. I want to make sure everybody has a voice. So you can't have a voice if you're in a 20-person discussion. You can have a voice if you're a 5 to 6 to 7 person group. You can talk, you can share ideas, and then you can share with a big group what those ideas are. And that's how we'll do it. It might be a little less efficient, but we're not sure all 20 are going to show up each meeting anyway. There are already 3 people who may not make Monday's meeting. And there are 5 people who are going to respond to me. I'm still going to have to call them and find out. So we could potentially only have 12.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna have to see how it all goes.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns, and I'm actually surprised that Bill, you know, pushing a large committee like this, because, you know, when we even brought up 5 selectmen, and Bill was against big crowds of trying to get something done, we have that, so I was concerned.
Well,
Because I kind of agree with you.
I see a couple of advantages to the 20.
Yeah.
Number one, we have a lot of diverse points of view, a lot of ideas,
Right.
and perhaps some creativity that exists there. And then, second of all, we have 20 ambassadors to the community to promote this proposal. So it's not, it's the people and their connections in the community that are also present. And they can say, I sat there and I discussed all these things and we came up with this, and that's the best way to go. And you gotta trust me, buddy, you're my friend, and you know, you gotta trust us that this is the way to go. So it's one of the ways to get the word out, get people convinced and how it's supposed.
Are you gonna narrow this down to one thing? This is what, so when you bring this to us, you're gonna bring us with one idea, or you're gonna we narrowed it down to 3 different locations?
I don't know.
Yet.
It could very well be 2. It there
Right.
may be one that's more expensive than another. It could be, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you in a second when I get to it. I'm gonna show you where I'm starting from. I'm starting with a 3-page document of ideas and questions and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that in a second. I'm squeezing in 10 to 11 meetings between now and your second meeting in November 13th. I'm hoping that most of us can make those meetings and we can get some things done. We may have to meet more often to get some of these questions in. We may have to bug Michael and other people to get the information we need. And hopefully we'll get there, but it's gonna be work. We have a shared Google folder, which I have some resources that Michael gave me, things like the fire calls map, the list of town-owned properties, things like that. If you folks want access to that shared folder, it's not something we're using to communicate. It's simply a place we put documents in. And it would mean, I'm just asking because I can give you access, which you know on the shared property, but I'm not sure you want it. It's all stuff that's available right now, and stuff we have available through town hall. So it's not anything you need. I just don't want to say exclude you if you don't want it, unless you want to exclude. Okay, so speak up if you change your mind about that.
Go through Michael.
Yep,
Pretty sure the way I said, so far, the way sounds
I think
great.
that's the way to go.
I don't think there's any need for that, but I
Right.
don't want to cut you off if you want to be on.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to consider everything and to explore creative ideas. I have no favorite plan right now, but my sense is that we need to offer the town something markedly different from what they've just not approved for the last few years. So we have to have something that's a catchy difference somehow. So we're not gonna, I've already had one committee member talk to me about, I'm not gonna go repeat the same old thing again. It can't be the same. Thing. You have to sell something different. And it may be slightly different, maybe majorly different, but it has to have something different about it. And that's, I just want you to know where I'm approaching this from. And then finally, I have this document, which is, the rest of the committee will see on Monday, but is a list of things, questions that I have had since I became aware of the situation and then talking to people around town, things I know are out there in the wind about things that relate to the fire station and how things might happen. And we're gonna work our way through this document as a committee, but I wanted you folks to look at it, and if in the next few days, you could send me any suggestions, additions, maybe answer some of the questions on here that are, I don't know about and you know the answer to. I'm not saying you have to be part of the committee, I'm just saying I've already run most things by Michael. So, I've got his input, I'm asking for your input also. Okay? So, this is just some homework. It's homework. Thank you. And there are a few extra things on here if you want to look at. And that's all I have.
Easy peasy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I compliment you for taking this on. You got a big challenge ahead of you.
I got good help too.
What's that?
I got good help.
Yeah, and I think you do, and, Bill told us that you do be a good chairman already. I see that. You're already dotting your i's and crossing your t's and you're getting ready for it, so I think Bill made a good choice. And, good luck, and any way I can help, I'm there.
Oh.
And I'll try to show up as much as I can to listen in.
Welcome. Welcome.
Good choice, Bill.
You made it.
I agree. You made it, I agree. But it seems like he's on the road.
From the perspective of the latter part of November. What do you envision that presentation to be from a completion standpoint?
Well, a lot depends, Bill. You and I talked a little bit about this in terms of if we have any major changes to a design that, how much lead time an architect might have to put something together. Don't know about that, but we talked about whatever we propose to you would eventually have to go to some sort of public meeting or some sort of presentation to people interested in the town and work our way right up to warrant.
Do you think there, I know it's awfully hard. So, but I'm just wondering, do you think there would be an opportunity prior to, when do we have to complete the public hearings?
It to be noticed basically by the end of the year. Well, it depends. Sometimes we combine them all in one. We have done separate bond hearings.
So I'm just wondering, from a pricing perspective, an estimate, do you think? I know this is hard, but would you be planning to have that estimate in hand prior to the end of the
It
year?
depends on whether we can find the resources to help us do the price. I mean, I'm not an expert. Maybe there's some people on the committee who can help us with that. Maybe there's people in town hall. Maybe, who can help us with some of the estimates. It also depends on what kind of design and plan we end up with. So.
Have you considered whether you need a budget?
I don't think the committee needs a budget. Other than being able to use the town copier. To make copies of this for everybody.
Black and white.
Yeah. Pay actually. But I don't, I mean, I'm assuming that if I need something that I would go to Michael and ask him if there's any funds that he could advance me, but I don't haven't thought about it.
Yeah, because if you need something, you can go to Mike, and Mike can come to us,
Yeah,
and we meet enough that. We have time to.
well, I can't imagine. Other than what resources the town already has already, that I would need. But then I'm not sure where we're going.
You're gonna do some field trips, huh?
Well, we're gonna go look at our present fire station. Because not everybody knows what's in the present fire station, so we should look at that and see what a fire station consists of with. And Eric is gonna show us around. So
Maybe even look at other ones in other towns.
maybe, but you know, there's some pictures of some of the others in that folder that. In the, Mike gave me all the stuff related to the latest plan, and some of it involves trips and pictures of other fire stations and so on. So there's some stuff in that share, so maybe have access to. And if we decide we can do with some others, that's great. Right now, we haven't even decided, you know, how big the thing is gonna be, how much, because nothing's been decided.
I think it's an executive, but yeah, we're gonna move. How are you gonna get to the executive part of it that we were talking about?
Well, I'm not sure I am. Here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have all these meetings. It may be that not everybody can read it. And we'll get to the point where there may be key members who show up all the time, that we're working on all this stuff. And it may be the executive committee is a variable number of people who were the regular showers, the regular people who are invested. I've already had one committee member say, well, I only agreed to come one night. Only agreed to come to one meeting, if I don't like what I see, I'm not gonna come back. Well, okay,
So you're feeling that this committee is gonna downsize? Probably, we're at 20, you're thinking you'll end up at 15.
maybe, by the end, I don't know, who knows? I mean,
Right.
one guy who's apparently sent an application and told me he never applied and he's dropped out of it, so now we're at 20 instead of 21, just, you know. And I've got these 5 people who haven't responded about whether they're coming on Monday or not. I think 2 or 3 of them are definitely going to come, but maybe a couple of them. So it's one of those things, until we actually get into it, I won't know. And so if there is a need to have a working group who are gonna work on the proposal, once we get there, your job between this meeting and next meeting is to meet privately and come up with something that you can show the committee. We'll do that. So a task force, basically. That's a segment of the committee. And that, I think that's what you were talking about, setting some people who would actually put together the final thing
Yeah,
and really work on that. And that may be what we.
maybe you don't need it, like you said.
But maybe that's what we need, maybe we need, because, you know, too many editors is.
Correct.
It's a problem when we're trying to make it happen. So the more voices we have, once we get to a certain point, the more difficult we'll have.
Got it.
So it may be that somebody needs to draft something and then we all pick it apart. Put it back together.
Very good.
So with roughly 2 weeks between meetings, we have time to have some task force meeting between and so on.
Are your meetings always coming on a Monday?
No, because everyone's not available every Monday. We have a meeting schedule, it's almost finalized now. I have a little bit of questions, more questions to ask the committee about their availability and so on. I don't want to disenfranchise anybody on purpose,
Gotcha.
so I want to find out when they're available and when they're not. But everyone's gonna take minutes, and she's a crucial part of the committee, so that we are limited to some meeting times. So, we'll see. And we're all prepared to work without it too, yeah.
Are we good?
Okay?
Thank you. We'll see you on Monday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you Monday. And I'm gonna take off.
5:30, right?
5:30
Here.
here. I'm gonna go upstairs, downstairs, but
Upstairs.
upstairs.
Thank
We don't have
you.
to deal with columns.
Good.
Nice job.
Well, thank you. We'll see you folks later.
You good, brother?
Shall we jump ahead to new business? Job description, heavy equipment operator? You have a motion here.
Either way.
Making a motion.
Consensus?
I'm making the motion for that.
Okay, second. Motion made and seconded to approve the heavy equipment operator job description. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Whitcomb Hall painting contract award.
Oh, man.
No, there wasn't anything really in there on the description, so. We issued a request for proposals in June, they were due back, I think around the 4th of July, we did not receive any proposals. Joe and Jimmy have been working on trying to drum up some additional proposals, which we did receive too. They're significantly more than what we had budgeted, so we had, I think it was like 17 or 18,000, I don't know if you remember, Mr. Camarlo, how much it cost to paint the hall back in 2017, but I think it was around 17 or 18,000. Now the two prices we got are 57,000 and 38,000. So I think we're gonna take a step back and maybe just do the front and look at doing the repairs that we talked about to the garage building.
You want me to talk a little about it? That's what I know. So we met with the two guys. First guy came and they were concerned with lead. So we did test it. It is lead paint on here. So we have to do the restrictions of lead paint. We have to,
To me, the lead paint was all taken off. When they, in our last paint job, we had it stripped down to the clapboards. And they collected all of the lead paint. So what's on here is not lead paint on the outside of the building.
so the first guy claims he took a chip and went and tested it. My suggestion to Joe was that we have a guy that works for the town that is certified to check for lead. So I asked Joe to have him tested too, so we could get a second test. He claims he took, so my question, Mike, was, well, we know we painted 7 years ago, so why would there be lead, right? So I said, did you pull an old chip off? Is it like layers back? And he claims yes. So they're not talking about stripping it, but they have to lay plastic out. They have to have a containment and then take all the loose stuff off, contain it, put it in a container. They all have to wear hazmats and masks, a suit to do it. So that adds to the price, but I don't think it adds that much to the price. But I do agree with you, Mike. I saw it was peeled and I said, wow, I'm surprised that we didn't know there was lead. So we are gonna get it tested again to make sure they just didn't say that.
Mark Smith, who lives on South Winchester Street, is the guy that did it. And I was here most of the time and he really did a clean job of taking the lead off this building.
So you're saying this whole thing was bare wood?
It might be a couple of spots maybe,
See,
but
that's where he might have chipped from, I'm thinking that, you know. He might have took a chip.
but to do the full lead nonsense again is just ludicrous. I mean, maybe you should talk to an expert like Sharon, who could probably tell you more, but Sharon was right on Mark every minute on what he was doing and what he was stripping and how he was taking care of the building on the outside.
Yeah.
And there should be no evidence really of any lead.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, like I didn't, you know, he just called and said that they did find lead, so they're gonna have to do it. Because there's lead in the building, so that's all I was told, and I said to Joe, what's the guy's name that works at Joe, Angel? Angel is certified, he can do that, no cost to us, so I suggested, let him test it too, get a second, right? And the other issue you have, Mike, is the soffit that's up around here, I don't know if you noticed it, it is falling down. The soffit boards, if you look on this side especially, there's
I didn't notice that, Jimmy.
we need to repair them because they're all falling down. They're boards that go across the soffit.
Yeah.
And either we gotta put a new trim to hold it up, but we have to fix that. And I think that should be fixed. And I was extremely surprised at the prices that came in, Mike. You know, they're talking about lifts, they're talking about this. I mean, I was shocked when 58,000 came in. And then the other one was 38,000. I suggested to Joe that we should still hunt around and look at some other prices, you know, we can't just go by those two. So I got some calls out of different painting companies that would come over here. The problem is a lot of them are so far out, and I think you guys want to get it painted this year before winter. And I don't know if there's people out there that can fit this in this year. They're all talking about, we'll give you a quote, but the spring, right? Because they're so far out, there's nobody out there.
What's the rush?
That's what I said to Joe. I said, Joe, why don't we wait till the spring? I looked at looks like we can make it through the winter. It isn't that bad.
There's a few spots I know there are, and I don't care what building you're looking at, there's gonna be a few spots here and there, but. I don't think I don't think there's something that needs a rush job. And I think it's something that we need to look at.
Thank you.
There's no reason, to have to do a total lead thing here. Some of this building was totally rebuilt without any lead on anything.
Yeah.
So, I think we need to do a little more investigation.
Okay, and why I have you here, another issue came up and your name was brought up.
Jimmy,
You're-
this is a different subject now?
This is the same building,
Okay,
it's the front doors.
Yeah.
Joe wants to have those doors fixed, but he said you were against doing anything there, because the heat this winter is going out the door, and Joe said he's frustrated on spending the heat. So I just want to know your side of the story of why we don't want to fix the cracks on the doors.
you see a couple of cracks. In these are original doors. This is a historic renovation.
Yeah,
It's not a new building.
right,
And I don't know if we can make the repair on those doors. But to totally put on some new door on this historic renovation is a sacrilege. To say the least.
well, there was a guy here, Ken, what I say, Ken, an older guy that Joe,
Great, man.
he's a woodworker.
Kind of great.
And he was gonna look at seeing how we could fix just the cracks in the door and keep the original door.
I'm not so sure they can.
Would you be, you're not sure they can?
The bottom part of the door, where you step up on the.
Threshold.
I'm sorry, I can't think of what it.
Yeah, the threshold.
Yeah, threshold, thank you. Has wear marks on it, and that's why you see something on the bottom. And we tried to put scrapers on it and stuff like that, but it doesn't cover it. And, for some reason or other, we probably should try to put a new threshold in, but, that entailed a huge,
I got it.
a huge renovation.
You know, I wasn't trying to get off the subject at all, but Joe was here and we were going around the whole building and he brought that up. And why I had the opportunity to hear your side about the doors, I wanted to bring that up. But you should look at the soffit, because that's gonna have to be,
If they need repair, we gotta repair them. There's no
Correct.
doubt about that.
they're gonna be falling off.
You know,
I think we should look at that, at least Mike, if you look, you could put a trim and hold up the boards because they're just falling down. And we looked at it today.
we need to investigate what caused that and.
Correct.
Definitely.
Some more investigation.
Yeah, and more time we need.
Yep.
And as far as the back building, we haven't got any quotes on that, but the back wall is in tough shape. Under that clapboard, it's the bond board, original, it's kind of punchy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we went inside, we felt the wood inside, because Joe was talking about vinyl siding in that backside. And we were concerned if a nail would take to it, because the board is soft. So the guy that came suggested that we put a sheet of like plywood over the whole wall, right? Cover up that bond board and then put the vinyl siding over that. We stripped the clapboard, plywood, and then vinyl.
Can't put the vinyl siding on, it's still, it's got.
Not this, the garage building.
We'll carry Joe.
The very back of that building's pretty bad shape.
We have, the clapboards on there are with cement. Most of them.
I'm talking about the building behind.
On where the water suppression system is. There's cement clapboards. On the east side. Now, the back end of the building and the side of the building, you can get the cement.
Correct.
And the back end was hard to get to, and it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
But if they really think it's
Jim
matter,
Holland.
if it really thinks it's matter, you can do anything you want to that building.
That's what we think.
Try to-
We're just gonna put some vinyl siding up there, I think. We're gonna get quotes.
If you can keep the integrity of the building.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think what we should do is give this time. I said to Joe, what Joe said, well, yeah, I think we should give it some more time. I think we need more investigation. I think there's not a big emergency that we should push this. And I think we should take our time about it. So I feel.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Go with that, Mike? Yeah, I think it's a good idea, right?
All right. Moving on to the public hearing. Notice of the public hearing. Town of Swanzey Board of Selectmen will hold the following public hearings pursuant to RSA 31:90, decimal 95-B. On Wednesday, July 17th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Whitcomb Hall, 17 Main Street, Swansea, New Hampshire. To hear testimony from the public regarding acceptance and expenditure of unanticipated funds as follows. $75,000 from the Monadnock Alliance for Sustainable Transportation for sidewalk improvements on North Winchester and California streets. And $189,886.60 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for expenses related to a declared disaster in 2023. If you will be unable to attend, et cetera, posted July 3rd, 2024. Any thoughts, opinions?
We'll open the public hearing.
I did. I said, no, public hearing. Oh, okay. Then I read the notice there. Okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Gordon Maynard, Chairman of the West One Bank. So will this 75,000 just be for the sidewalks for California in North Winchester Street?
It's towards that overall project that we've been working on.
So it's sidewalks.
Right, yeah, towards the sidewalks on that overall project.
So all 75,000 will go.
Correct.
Okay, because I know that we're part of the equation that you may ask us for more money, so
Correct.
I'm just trying to get a feel of if the 75, and once we get a number from you saying that it's gonna be 150,000 for sidewalks, then we may only have to come up with another 75.
Correct. This would go towards, yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's all I need to
it'd
know.
go towards the sidewalks on those two roads.
Well,
Yes.
in doing these sidewalks, are you going to do the same as you did in South Winchester Street and replace the whole thing? Or are you going to take out the blocks that are chipped or cracked or need replacement and take sections of it and add on to it at the end? And that was never clear to me on whether they were going to press the sidewalk beyond the old Forest Avenue and past Bob's Garage, or stop there at the old Forest Avenue. And just fix the ones that need fixing and the ones that are not in with the compliance of the sidewalk committee, which is 5 by 5.
We would want to work with the sidewalk committee on the scope of work. So, yeah, it wasn't in the budget to extend down to the end because we didn't get the full funding for the other grant. So it would just be the existing length of the sidewalk on North Winchester would be going to the end on California. And then we we're happy to look at the blocks if there's subsections that are in good shape and the sidewalk committee wants to save them. I don't think that would be a problem.
It's a savings, because a lot of them on South Winchester Street, you replace the whole thing, and a lot of them had already been replaced by the sidewalk committee a few years before, and they weren't chipped or cracked. And they might need cleaning and taking care of the grassing on the cracks and stuff, and getting the brush or something away from them. But as far as the sidewalk, the sidewalk was whole and in good shape. And I don't see any need to replace decent sidewalks when we've got other sidewalks in Swansea that we need. We like the one on Railroad Street and the one on Public Avenue when we're going to have to do Christian Hill. But there's a lot of these sidewalks and they need cleaning and removal. People walk and they're walking through poison ivy of some of these places and they need cleaning. And I think we need to put our money on the sidewalk committee and where we need to have it, so it's best for the community, so they can walk on the sidewalk. And not necessarily new sidewalks, but good sidewalks.
Anything else?
Is that something the sidewalk committee would do? They'd walk down there, they'd evaluate this, is that what you're saying? And then they would, yeah, so they would do that.
Absolutely. And we decide, the sidewalk committee, but we decide on a driveway, there might be a bunch of cracks in the cement. We would decide to replace those 3 or 4 5x5s. And then we'd go along and wherever there was a crack or a separation, we would replace a few more. But replacing, and we found out that replacing a section is probably cheaper than replacing just a cup. But in this situation on North Winchester Street, from, and I'm going to call it Main Street, instead of California Street. There's about probably 8 to 10 blocks there to get to some decent sidewalks again. So you take that one section and fix it. And then you leave blank and you might have 5 or 6 and you replace that.
Would you match what's there?
You meant because they're
We just look like clean as cement, but the sidewalk would be uniform.
5x5, that's what we go by.
Got it.
So at the end of Winchester Street up by Nicofracus's,
Yeah.
the sidewalk is a 4-foot sidewalk, so we would replace it. You know what I mean?
No.
And it stops right after George Nicofracus's house, or thereafter before it gets to Forest Avenue or the old Forest and Bob's Drive. Go ahead, you have something.
On California Street, I believe that says that we need granite curb. So which would mean all the sidewalks have to be placed on California Street. I believe that was part of the, in order to get the grant that they require granite curb. I believe back when we had a meeting when Sarah was the here, that's put on, that she said that the grant money said that it had to be granite curb. Which I agree, because we replaced that sidewalk probably 10 years ago. We wanted to put granite curbing there at the time, but at that time, Lee Dunham was the public works director. And he said that people would blow tires and stuff. Well, if you had curbing there, people would slow down. And, you know, the sidewalk would stay not cracked like it is now. So, I mean, I think at California, we would have to replace the whole sidewalk, put the granite curb in.
When do you guys do things like this? You get, how many people are involved here?
It's 50 miles big.
Yeah.
We have a meeting and then people bring up that, a lot of people walk the sidewalks and say that, over on California Street or Holbrook Ave, there's some broken sidewalks, or we need to take care of this, or people that we know that walk, come to us and say, there's a problem on the sidewalk here and there. And then we hold a meeting and then we just all take a vote to see, what we're gonna do. If we approve it, we should do it.
And then you bring it here and then.
Well, no, actually, the existing sidewalk, we just take care of it ourselves without going to anyone, because
The sidewalk committee operates off of the snow fund, which is a sidewalk committee for just West Swanzey.
Yeah.
And these funds can't be spent in any other part of the town. And all of the people on this committee are from West Swanzey. And so you see a committee member, you can ask, tell them your concerns, we've got concerns, and we know what they are, and we're trying to have enough money to fix a few of the bad spots. And we always don't have enough money to fix all of the concerns. That's probably because of our bad maps.
Is that something I could go with the committee and see, and somebody could come in? I would love to see it with my own eyes, so I could see what. So maybe I can get contacted when you guys go up there and I can take a little tour of it.
anytime,
I'd love to do that.
not a problem.
If there's nothing else, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Sure.
About the FEMA funds. Are they allocated towards any work on Swanzey Lake?
No, I believe is that FEMA gonna be done in Thompson Bridge
Right, so this is for work that was completed largely last
to
year.
reimburse?
It's reimbursing the town for that.
So
work.
it has nothing to do with the storm damage or,
What has to do with the storm damage?
From July of last year,
right?
so we rebuilt East Shore Road and places like that.
So you're just kind of reimbursing.
Reimbursing the town's account.
What's the plan for the watershed for Swansea Lake?
There's a meeting this Saturday at 10 a.m. here,
It's not after a moment.
what's that, Garrett?
I think it's 9 a.m.
9
I
a.m.
can't remember having to plan.
Where they'll be presenting on a study that they've been working on.
Gentleman's name, please.
Craig Peterson.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
And then we'll have to, once we get the final, we have a draft report, but once we have the finalized report, I'd be happy to share it with you on the website.
okay, that'd be great.
Okay, now I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Top of page 4.
I'll make that motion.
I didn't actually, more for Beverly, but I'd like to add that I'll be authorized to sign the grant agreement with MAST.
That motion.
Okay, so who wanted in the motion? I move to accept unanticipated funds as outlined above and authorize.
Town administrators to sign grant agreements with MAST and the expenditure of 189.
189,886.60 from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for repairs to the bridge on Denman Thompson Highway. All in favor, say aye. Aye, ayes have it.
We do expect significantly more on the way from FEMA as well. They break it out by different projects. I think like some of this was Talbot Hill. So it comes in and kind of drags. So we'll probably have another hearing at some point.
Okay, can you talk about Talbot Hill a little bit and what the plan is for that, or do you not?
This was the maintained section of Talbot Hill. I assume you're wondering about
The other
part
side.
of the
I
node.
was under the impression that you didn't have any jurisdiction to maintain that road because it's a class 6 road.
So on the other side by
On
Sawmill
the other
Drive,
side.
it's maintained, but you're correct about the section in the middle. It's class 6, so the town is not maintaining it.
Okay, can I ask you a question? So there's property owners that surround the class 6 road. And right now it's really just a dried up riverbed. It's really not a road. It's not passable. Hypothetically, if I went and I knocked on the owner's door and said, hey, what if I pay you, and I'll pay for it, but I'll get an excavator up there and we do some work on that and divert the water away from my house. Can I do something like that
So any improvements would still need town approval
for grading?
for maintaining the class 6 road. And if you're diverting water, you would need a drainage easement.
Okay. All right.
So in theory, maybe, but it probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious because I don't know how it works with class 6 roads and you don't have jurisdiction to do any work on there. But the homeowners have to apply for a permit and.
Right, yeah, we have others where it's more common, like Sycamore Hill near like Swanzey Neighbors gas station. That's a class 6 road that the neighbors maintain routinely because there's several houses on it. So it's
So
not,
essentially like, kind of like a private.
except the public has a right of way to use it and they need town basically permission to do the improvements.
Gotcha. Okay,
So it's quasi, it's like half
yeah,
private.
just trying to understand how it all works.
Yeah. It's confusing.
Yes.
Shall we go back to water line extension to the Valley Creek?
Sure, let's see, Mr. Kevin. Let's see, we have the chairman of the North Swansea precinct here. Do you want to join us up here? I know you folks discussed their estimate, right, for the water line extension?
We did in a fairly preliminary way. We
obviously, looking at the costs as outlined and obviously a little higher than originally anticipated. The reason being, according to the superintendent, that they basically, the original estimate was based on 6-inch pipe running, 6-inch main running to it, and serving it. And apparently the state of New Hampshire requires an 8-inch minimum. And that's going to boost this. And there was discussion, although in a very oblique way, of even possibly making it a 10-inch main, which would boost the price even higher than what we were shown in this estimate from Alitech, which was based on I believe, the 8-inch.
Unfortunately, going from 6 to 8 didn't increase it as much as I thought.
I never saw it. Is it in
Yes, it's in here.
I'm sorry. It was 262, wasn't it, the first one? 288.
Yeah, so that was about 20, 25.
That didn't go up as much as I thought, but
No.
What was the original estimate? I don't think.
262.
Okay, so, yeah, actually, that is a remarkably small increase given the anticipation of the 8-inch gut line, pipe water line extension. But again, there is also discussion, or has been some discussion, of maybe even making it 10, which is going to bring in a new estimate, which is also going to be higher than this one. How much higher? Until we hear from Alitech.
Would there be value in going to a 10-inch for future expansion, or would an 8-inch?
The superintendent would be better equipped to answer that question, and he is sitting at the table there, so. He's the one that asked.
I'll have to put on the superintendent. The elevation is getting up there, we're kind of, the elevation of the tank and key. So like on Route 12, we can only go to Page Homestead Housing. On Route 32, basically that rest of that hill is probably might be able to go over the top, but I don't see it happening.
to where you mean? To what was the building as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's still, there's some elevation and then it drops down and then it pops back up again, so. I'd have to see elevation maps to see what it would be, but I think that elevation right at that site of Alitech's project is probably the max. And the precinct is just put out an RFQ for engineering for a forgivable loan that we are hopefully gonna get to pay for it, to design replacing our water mains with 10 and 12-inch pipe. That's estimated at $5.7 million.
So when we look at the extensions coming across from Route 12 or extension currently, would we have the ability with this extension along 32 to potentially create a tie-in to support the residential going in, like for example, off of Barrel Crest, as they come over the hill towards,
If there was a water tank on there,
we'd have to have a tank.
Underwood 20 years ago did a design or an estimate of where we would need booster pump stations or elevated storage tanks to give us the pressure for up there.
But we would have appropriate capacity with the 10-inch.
If it continued down Route 32, yeah, to the Swanzey Center and beyond, so.
Great.
But that's probably a long time.
Time goes by faster.
Yeah.
Way to get to my age.
I got this.
When you get to mine.
I'm right there, Paul. Well, knocking on the door.
So what's your preference with this?
Yeah, previously he was looking for help with half, which now half is more. I don't know if that means still half or the same amount he was looking for before, but does the precinct have any, I don't know which one of you, but does the precinct have funds towards line extensions? Is that something you might contribute towards or?
As to whether we would contribute toward, that is something which the Board of Commissioners will take under advisement. We have no set belief one way or the other. at least no stated belief. I'm sure each member has their own opinions, but we haven't actually formulated it into a motion. Do we want to, how do we want to, where do we actually stand on that? And, once we get a little more solid information about how much Alitech wants toward, wants from the precinct toward this project, we could have a better idea of, what we'd be voting to support or not support.
The connection fee, the recapture infrastructure costs could work into that too. The commissioners like look at doing something with that.
I don't see that factored into his budget, maybe it's factored in somewhere else or.
Wouldn't be factored into this budget.
No, I guess the project budget. I don't think he knows to ask one group versus the other. I think he's just asking in general, so.
Yeah, because I'm a little confused. We know that he wants us to come up with 50%, and he's gonna come up with 50%, right?
Yeah. But how much of that 50?
You need more information to come up with your decision on how you were participating.
Well, he wants 50% from the town, presumably some of that 50% would come out of the, would come from the precinct.
Well, then, the town's 50%, some of that would hopefully come from the precinct as well.
Well, that's what I said, the question is, first of all, have to know whether the town is on board with, chipping in 50%, and if they are. Actually, all the town can do is say, we would like the precinct to chip in as part of the 50%, and hopefully the town give us a figure as to how much they want the precinct to throw in. Is it gonna be 50-50 for the 50%, and in other words, each side 25?
25 and 25.
But, until we get some hard numbers, it's a little hard for the precinct to make, to make an exact, opinion. First of all, we gotta go back and see how much we've got. And, and determine how much of it we're willing to give up toward this project. Or even if the precinct is willing to give up any at all, because, we could just turn around, in theory, could just turn around and say, no, we don't think that the obligation on this falls on the town. But again, that's a matter for discussion later. I'm not speaking for anybody but myself on that, and all I'm saying is, we gotta talk about it.
So if the town is to connect and Alitech is to connect, what additional fees do they have other than the tie-in fee? Is there any infrastructure that needs to be handled?
Just that water main to get there, because it's in a street. It would become the property of the water precinct. But once it gets there, anything that's on the property, like valves, any connections to the buildings, the meters usually get bought by the homeowner or the property owner, things like that.
So the actual connection, those valves, is that the connectee or is that you?
Connectee. So
Okay, so what would our cost be roughly? Just to do that part, just to connect in. Not the fee to connect, but the valves needed.
well, you would run, basically, this is a cost to get it down to the site on the road. Coming in from the road, there would be probably a 4 or 6 inch main to go for the fire suppression. And then water lines to each building into 32 units. I think he's got 4 buildings, so we'd have a water line for each one of those, shut-offs, things like that. So whatever building goes to the Swanzey lot, depending on what it is, would be the same, 4 or 6 inch fire line and whatever service drops. So. Hard to estimate.
Oh, I understand. Sometimes it can be caught in the stream.
Yeah.
That would be 75,000. Are you just telling me that once we get that main off the road, to get to the departments, that's an additional cost on this project to either the town or that? So, what does he actually pay for ours with you? Would it be his property with his ears? Oh, it is,
He pays a time fee,
okay.
and then it's his responsibility to get them to connect the line. and bring it to his property.
This estimate goes from the end of our the precinct line down to the front of his property.
Gotcha.
From there, it's on the property.
And the only revenue this brings in, whoever hooks up and it goes to the precinct, the money.
Yeah.
So the town right now, we see nothing back from this investment.
So do we
Just
know,
tax.
do we know if the line comes to the town property? As part of this estimate?
Guessing it's pretty close, but I don't know where he actually ended it.
So the one benefit that we do have is we're gonna bring water to that property that we own, that we thought we would put the fire station. So that will bring up the value of that property because now we have town water to that property, right?
Yeah.
And so
And so how much does that bring up property? Does it bring up property quite a bit when you sell it? About, would you know, can it bring up property?
it certainly can,
Good.
depending upon what goes there. From the standpoint of the sprinkler system.
Right, the building goes there, they don't have to get tanks and all that. Because if they don't have it, they have to get all the tanks and all that stuff,
I
right?
might still have to have tanks.
You might have to have a tank or a pump, depending on the elevations.
But they also might have to become a public water supply, which is no small matter either.
For 32 units, I think he would. I
Right.
think he'd have a well or two become a public
That's-
water supply.
That would be the same thing with the lot too, depending on what winter you're in. You've got to become a public water supply. It's not just a simple well and a hook and hoses. Now it's testing and other stuff. So I mean, it's,
I was just trying to weigh out the
Oh, no.
benefits of the town and sort of make this investment, we're gonna see the back,
absolutely
how
100%.
that was legitimate, it's a big investment. What do you think,
We should do it,
you think we should do it?
because we're going back to the site.
And you're saying split the 50%. That we have left, put it on the table, now he goes back and he'll take care of the other 25%. Is that what you're asking?
It's like.
We're suggesting that we put up 25%, you guys put up 25%, there's the 50%. Right? That makes sense?
So my understanding that would be the arrangement unless anybody had some other formula in mind, but it makes sense that we'd be talking town 25% and precinct 25%. But again, that's subject to action of the precinct committee, the commissioners.
Where would this money come from?
That's the H per unit affordable housing grant. For the 10 Perry Lane property.
So how would we go about that, with the motion table that we would go as far as 25% of not exceeding a certain amount of money, where?
I think we have to find out whether the precinct.
And wait before we do that, right, we'll just tell them that we'll go in. I got it.
We also need to find out whether this estimate is going to hold or whether we're going to, how much more it's going to cost if we go to 10-inch. And, if the developer wants to go 10-inch. He doesn't have any choice about going to 8-inch, that's a statement he made. But if for various reasons we want to go to 10 inches, that's going to bring in a new and higher estimate. Of which then we have to figure out our 25%, your 25%.
So 2 inches brought us up $26,000, so if you add another 2 inches. Maybe you're gonna probably say another 20,000.
Hopefully.
Right, well, so now you're at $300-some-thousand.
I know.
Project. What was your answer? What benefit us of the tenants? Does it benefit us? I wasn't really understanding that. Would you suggest we would go with the 10 inch if we did this project?
No, only in the fact that it's the end of the line and the elevation issue. If it was, in the middle of the precinct and it was a flat run, you know, and whoever hooked on down the road would not have a problem with the elevation and pressure. I would say yes, but where it's at the end of the line, I think 8-inch would probably be sufficient.
Probably also bears noting that in the event the fire station actually goes on the land being held for that purpose, to have this project split 50-50 right now is going to save the town a fair bit of money, because if you extend to the fire station, town's going to have to pay for the extension in addition to whatever the precinct chips in, but that's not going to be 50 and 50.
I don't think we can put that in that scenario right now, because I think we gotta play the cards that we got right now,
Yeah.
that the fire station ain't gonna be there. I just don't think. You know what I mean, Bill? I think we should look at it that the fire station ain't gonna be there, if we're gonna make this. And that's why I asked, how much value was in that land? If we didn't do the fire station, we sold it, you know?
I agree with you, Jim. It's a, you know, right, you know, we've had too many no votes on this.
Yeah.
And I don't, and my own feeling, you know, as a journalist and having analyzed this over the portion, you know, over several years of trying, you take the firefighters out of the vote and it's a 50-50 split down the middle, by the town.
Yeah.
If the firefighters are not included in that vote, but they're all voting for it, you know that.
Oh, absolutely. We
So-
know that.
So, you know, I agree with you, the likelihood of the fire station going there is,
I don't think we want to continue with that discussion. Right?
I'm trying to agree with you, Bill.
I think we consider that as worst option. We don't want to really go much further with that.
Absolutely.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Good.
So we have a meeting, August 19th,
Yes.
precinct select commissioners. Do you want to invite Alitech to propose something to them, or? Because right now we don't have any proposal from them, so to speak. We have the estimate, but there's not.
It's just
What they're
it was just
looking
the
for,
vertical recess.
right?
So you said not push for the 10, correct? So just continue with this estimate, is that?
Yeah, either way. Just my opinion, based on the elevation and everything, I think 8's sufficient at the end of the line.
If it did go to 10, I think we would have to absorb that additional cost because it's not a requirement for him.
And it would benefit us.
It would, yeah, with the more attention.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
I also think with what you said with regard to, or both of you, with regard to the hiring a consultant to determine what your long-term needs are, increasing your pipes to 10 and 12, would that factor in here or not? But you guys would know that.
Well, first of all, we have to talk about that because we don't have, you know, a long-term master plan per se. And, certainly consult Sly, consult Sly as to what he, as the expert in this, believes we would need long-term. And, you know, but the idea that one, you know, if we get too carried away with this, we're getting into, you know, pump stations and tanks and all kinds of other ancillary costs that we probably are not in a position right now to, you know, to talk
Might be
about.
10 years down the line, but not now.
Yeah, exactly. And the question is, right now, we're working, as you pointed out, let's work with what we got. And what we got right now is an 8-inch, is an 8-inch pipe. And, you know, let's not shoot for a Rolls Royce when we've got a Cadillac.
Yeah, I mean, I think we came up with an answer that we would be agreeable to split the 50% with the precinct, right?
I think we bring that back to the commissioners and see what their thought is. Any chance of meeting before then, or at one point he was somewhat anxious, although he also
Yeah.
didn't come up with it.
Jeremy.
It depends on how urgent the town considers this issue. Theoretically, we can call a special meeting anytime. Getting us all together is sometimes a problem. Gus and I never have any problem, but,
Yeah, Mr. Rogers.
Brian is, on the road. Seems like half his life. And we'd have to, find a date that he could be there, because we obviously, this is something we'd have to talk about, all three of us need to talk about.
Mhm.
Mike, can I just interrupt for a second? What was the concern that Joe had about putting it in? The company that puts it in, remember he brought up a concern?
You just want to make sure that somebody that, was experienced in installing.
That's what it was, right? To make sure we put it back together and the road, because we will be digging up the road or next to the road.
Next to the roof.
Yeah.
So, what-
I just forgot what Joe, I knew Joe had concerns with this whole thing. I just wanted to make sure.
Would it be helpful for him if we agreed that they have the cost with the understanding that we're approaching the precinct to share in that cost? Because if we go to the 19th meeting and the precinct says no, then we haven't made a decision. Other than that, we're paying 25%.
At time, I'm like, so I put you on the spot, but you've had more discussions with him. I know at times this was somewhat urgent, but then he also didn't come tonight. You have a sense of how time sensitive it is for him, but I just was thinking that's literally a full month.
I just don't think, I don't think it would be, it should be too difficult by next Wednesday to have an actual written request. A number that you guys could agree on. I think that would be,
We don't meet next Wednesday, do
okay, the Wednesday after.
we? Wednesday after.
From him.
Yeah, and have a written request.
I mean, I don't know what you're looking at. I mean, you got a number in front of you to those
Yeah, it's
points.
just
Yeah, procedurally, I mean, it's more of a procedural thing. I had urged him to come in for months. Because I was worried about this happening and everybody being put in a bad spot. And that's where we are, and I don't know what else to say other than that. It's a decision up to you guys, but I don't think having a written request is a lot to ask, but if you gotta wait 2 weeks, that puts the whole project, but. I mean, this has been a key component of the project.
Which he's not.
I finally had to almost grab the sprinkler guy by the cheeks and go, you understand, they haven't agreed to this. You're gonna start putting in sprinklers based on numbers that no one's agreed to. You know that. You know what you're doing here. I don't know what else to do other than that. I mean, it's an important component, it's the friggin' water. So, you know what I mean?
So we can move this off.
But as
That's the way it'll be done.
as the mics are saying, we don't actually have a proposal.
Yeah.
I just don't, I have asked for the future. I just don't know if we're gonna get a written request. We got it verbal. I just don't know.
2 weeks is a long time. If he doesn't come up with that, I think that's very reasonable, quite reasonable. For what they're asking, right? I know if it was me, I'd be right here with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to stick to the.
I was just asking because I know you talked to him.
Yeah, no, and I understand and appreciate it. He's a good guy, it's just not his, it's not.
I think it's very reasonable in 2 weeks, not what it is.
Consensus,
Fair
I'm
enough.
good. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Paul, good job.
We're gonna
Thanks.
request a written request.
Thank you, Paul.
And the rain stopped, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank
You wished it.
Every time you bring it, it stops.
Seeing.
We appreciate it.
I brought mine.
There's no guarantee that by the time you guys are done,
Right.
you'll be back.
Think about it.
I'm gonna see Saturday.
Cement Paul.
All right, next up, we have a boundary line adjustment with Southwest Community Services. Boundary line on Main Street between Station 3, Fire Station 3 property at 34 minutes. And Swanzey Township housing. Which would add over 3 acres to the Station 3 property. I think Keith had brought this up.
Mhm. Yeah, this has been in the works for a few years now, so with the, got a copy of the proposed acreage, so really it's mainly adding kind of excess acreage, access to their property. But also gives some nice riverfront property that maybe there's potential for trails. Also could be some, maybe a training area, you know, back somewhere, so. It's a very generous donation by Southwestern Community Services, so it's planning to go before the planning board in August, so maybe just an FYI.
Oh, it's gonna go in front of the planning board, right?
I think we'll probably have to do the 4114A process to accept the acreage as well, so probably have the public hearings too.
Great. Any
Do you
questions?
have any expense,
We're hoping with some of the transaction costs.
some of the title and
Yeah.
surveying?
Administrative update.
You had asked after last meeting about some information about kind of form of government stuff, so I included information about charter towns, charter commission. That we last spring there was a lot of discussion about the 5-member board of selectmen, so I just included info about the charter government. It's one option to look at charters versus just increasing the scope. You can look at kind of the whole form of government. What do you want to go before town meeting? Do you want to have SB2? So just some slides from an NHMA presentation on that, and then you had asked about the town manager statute, so I included an article from also from NHMA.
Where did Molten Borough end up?
They did not approve a charter commission. I don't think they even, so you create a commission and then people get elected to it, and then they would propose a form of government that the voters would then have to approve again. I don't think.
So it takes like 2 years,
Yeah.
2 election cycles to get through.
But it gives you more customizability versus just town meeting or SB2. You can kind of tailor it a little bit.
So we would collectively just authorize the commission, people would apply.
Yeah, actually,
decide not
it
to.
actually would be a special election, so if it gets approved,
So we wouldn't wait till March.
No, it would be.
The commission concept would be approved in March,
Right.
and then there would be a special election.
Right.
And that's where that additional cost comes in.
correct.
And is it that same timeline that Bolton Borough followed?
I believe it.
Always has there.
Yeah, I believe it's like a May, would be a May election. So just food for thought, you know, before we get into the full budget season,
Good reading.
right, so.
Not the easiest reading.
Better than the Swanzey Lake Management Plan?
Oh, that was,
Wow,
Any correspondence?
that was exhausting, that's a good word for it.
Oh, kind of corresponds, kind of administrative updates, but we're kicking off the CIP process again. Bill is honored to serve on the CIP committee, so just taking the opportunity to mention to the board, if you have projects that you want to make sure prioritize, be it facility, road, bridges, if you don't see them in the plan, maybe next meeting we can have an agenda item, just make sure we know, because, you know, different times, things come up as, oh, we'd like to do this, but
Right.
we'd like to work them in the plan too, if we can, make sure we have funding for them. So maybe just brainstorm on,
Where the gutters completed.
the gutters were completed today,
They were tested just a little while
they
ago.
were tested.
Did they work?
Seemed to, I didn't actually go out, but feeling pretty good about my chances.
Mike's office doesn't have a window, so that when the rain had stopped, he didn't know when it
I
started.
didn't even know his name.
Mike's like, oh, Mike's office, like, what rain?
Yeah, it's true.
See those
actually.
puddles?
I didn't know.
So while we're talking about the guidance, I understand that it's not, evidently you've had conversations about this with him, about the back of the building, talking about the ramp. I'm gonna take that out. Joe just mentioned it to me. We're gonna take down, and when we take down, when we get there, why don't we put our drainage in around the foundation at the same time? And we kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Sure.
Because we gotta dig down behind that building, and we could put some drainage lines in around the bottom base, and maybe even seal that up with some membrane or something. The foundation.
Hope so.
Good idea.
Good idea.
I just think we're gonna be in there digging. And I'd like to add to it that I'd like to see us, while we have the machinery there, address that wall. Where the fire trucks come out, because someday that wall is gonna fall there. You never know, it could fall on the day that we need to get the fire truck out. Which chances of hitting mega bucks, but it's there. I don't know if that's something you guys might wanna throw into the mix, that we try to repair that piece of wall, we have the machinery there. Because the only thing that's holding that up is that metal rod, right?
Well, it's actually not holding it up, it's holding up about 4 square feet of it.
Correct. The only part that stayed in place is the metal
That's
rod,
all it's holding.
the rest of the wall's coming down.
That's correct.
I don't know, I know money, we gotta be
That
careful.
is in the plan, that's in the fire station facility plan, so that's something that's in the plan.
Oh, great.
I don't know if the money is right, but we have place that for it.
It's just a sewer pipe going out to the leach field behind that wall.
Yeah, it's a ways behind it, yeah, it's not at a good pitch, unfortunately, it's one of the reasons the toilets in town hall don't really flush well. Yeah. It's back there.
And I understand that the interior now, we will be covered with some insurance money for the interior, the cabinets back and all the stuff at the fire station, right?
Sounds like, yeah.
Between the gutters and us digging that, I think we're gonna solve the problem.
Very good. So we'll just do public input. One last bite of the apple, anybody? Yes, sir.
Do we have a time frame on when California, the North Route, we maybe get it?
Hopefully 2025.
Okay. So that's not out for bid for, so we don't have any numbers to. Thank you.
Thank you. The non-publics?
Yes. For reputation.
Let's make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Bill?
Non-publics.
Oh, motion to, under A.
He wants to get.
Second.
Thank you, guys.
Better, Dudley. Aye.
Take care, Barney. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Everything come out okay, Jeff? Saw Marcy bringing you up. Saw Marcy yesterday bringing you up.
For the good,
We were in Duncan's.
I think they.
I'm all in. Thank you. Thank you, guys.